My name is Margot, and I'm a content writer here at PlayBuzz, and we're really excited to have you with us and share some tips and tricks to using our personality quiz format. So before we start and get into the fun, we want to remind you guys that there's no need to take notes right now. We're going to send you all the materials after today's presentation. We do encourage you to maybe jot down some questions as they come up along the way, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. You can also type them into the comment box over to your right, and as I said, we'll address all of these once our presentation today is finished. So let's go ahead and get started. Playful content really makes it easier for publishers to tackle some of the challenges that they're faced with in this day and age. First and foremost, playful content is fun, and it encourages users to spend more time on your site. It's got very high completion rates, in some cases over 90%. It's easy to embed on any website. It's got a ton of viral potential. It's snackable, it's quick to consume, and it's fun. And it really creates a fun emotional experience, which we're going to speak to a little bit more as we continue. Most importantly, your users will really love to consume this kind of content just because of the nature of its playfulness in the first place. So now that we've kind of explained what playful content is and how it can help you meet some challenges, let's talk about how to create it and have some fun. All right. So as you're creating, say, a personality quiz in this case, the first thing that you really want to think about is both social interaction and emotional experience, which I've already mentioned a few times. Now, what is it that really makes people want to share content in the first place? Basically, all of us want to be perceived in a certain way, especially when it comes time to share things with our social network. And, people tend to share what makes them feel good. And if your content can create a positive emotional experience among your audience, say it makes them feel nostalgic or surprised or happy, we find that people are more likely to share this content that makes them feel good. So as you create these items, think about that and how your audience is going to interact with your items socially and what kind of emotional experience you really want to evoke. So that's always a good place to begin. Number 2, keep your content playful and positive. Now this speaks to what we just discussed in the last slide about people sharing what makes them feel good. Whenever I make a quiz, I want to keep things, in most cases positive and really, really fun. Positive content, as we've said, is highly shareable. And as a general guideline, you want to keep the tone positive and playful. They don't call it playful content for nothing. People really want to engage with content that's fun and upbeat. They don't want to be told something negative about themselves, that's for sure. And they don't want to share negative content with their social network, although, everybody has that one person on their Facebook news feed, for example, that shares negative things. But in general, people share what makes them feel good and happy. So when you're writing questions and answers and responses to your quiz questions, and as you're creating this content, remember to evoke that positive emotion that makes people want to share. Number 3, keep your number of quiz questions short. Basically, what this means is think about the length of the experience that you're trying to create. As we've mentioned, we live in a world where our attention is constantly being pulled in many different directions. So we've found that people respond best when personality quizzes are between 8 and 10 questions. And for trivia quizzes, about 10 to 12 questions. And here's why that works. Any less than 8 questions, and your user might feel as though they don't connect with their final result because 8 questions really they don't feel is enough to get to know them well enough. And more than 10 questions can be a bit long, and people see a lot of questions and they get bored and they drop out of the quiz before finishing it. So we found that as a general guideline, between 8 to 10 questions is a great number of questions for a personality quiz. Also, in speaking to this, we want to remind you, keeping your text short and concise is also a good rule of thumb, because the truth is, when people are taking a personality quiz, they can't wait to get to their final result anyways. So, keeping the content short and allowing them to get to that final result quicker is a great idea. You want to avoid lengthy scenario questions, because the truth is, when people see a lot of text right in front of their face, they tend to get intimidated and they don't want to read it all. And they might finish, they might drop out of the quiz before finishing. And if they don't get to the final result, then how are they going to be able to share it? So keep your text short and concise. It's always a good rule of thumb. Number 4, always add an other or I don't know or none of the above option to quiz questions. This is perhaps one of the most helpful tips that we really, really like to emphasize, and here's why. We like to call this sort of the escape option. Let's say, for example, you asked a question in a quiz, what's your favorite movie? Now, there's up to 8 possible answers to each question on a personality quiz. But let's say the user doesn't see their favorite movie listed. One or two things are going to happen. One, they don't see their favorite movie listed, and they don't feel as though the quiz is really getting into their personality or reflective. So when they get to their final result, they don't necessarily think that it reflects who they are. Or number 2, if they don't see the answer that they want to choose, they're more likely to just drop out of the quiz altogether. So thinking about adding this other or none of the above answer or I don't know can really help increase your completion rate and the overall share rate of your personality quiz. Also, if you don't necessarily want to add none of the above or I don't know option, then there's another option is to think about the way that you phrase your questions. So, for example, instead of asking, what's your favorite movie, maybe you can ask, which of these movies would you rather watch? Therefore, the user doesn't feel forced to choose an answer that they don't like, and this can really help increase your completion rate. Always a good rule of thumb. Number 5, encourage your users to comment. This is a really, really great way to, maximize your audience engagement and help, comments, whenever somebody's commenting on an item, it helps spread your content through social media. So one of the ways you can do that is by asking the user if their final result on a quiz was accurate or not. This is something that we really like to do and that I like to do when I'm creating a quiz. So let's say that I was doing which Avengers character are you? And my result was Iron Man. At the end of the description of that result, I might ask my user, for example, did we get it right? Or are you just like Iron Man? Or what do you think of this result? Let us know in the comments. And by encouraging them to interact with your item, not only do you get to know your users a little bit better, but you can really maximize your audience engagement and really get people to comment on your content. Number 6, if you're just starting out, a good place to begin is by creating a fun and simple character quiz. We have this example here, which Avengers Age of Ultron character are you? Now, everybody's familiar with this particular use of the personality quiz. It's sort of the tried and true technique, the original personality quiz. You've undoubtedly seen this in your news feeds before and taken some of these quizzes yourself. Who wouldn't want to know which Avengers character they are? So if you've never, you're just starting out with the personality quiz format, this is a great place to start. It's really, really fun and can really familiarize you with the personality quiz format. Number 7, keep everyone guessing. So what do we mean by that? Basically, we'd like to highlight the sort of can we guess format here. The really cool thing about this format is that from the very beginning, you have created a reaction within your audience by, making people wonder if you're actually going to be able to guess something about them. You're creating that instant emotion that we've been speaking about. telling someone a fact about themselves that makes them react. This is sort of different from other quizzes because, unlike saying, which mythical creature are you, you're telling them something that they can argue with. So let's take a look at our Can We Guess Your Real Age format. This was a very popular quiz that was from earlier last year. So let's see. This quiz wants to ask, can it guess my real age? And if you take a look here, the beauty of this quiz is that your users are encouraged to prove you wrong from the very beginning. And the best part is, whether or not you guess correctly is completely beside the point. It doesn't really matter. People are still going to want to argue with you in the comments section. And as you can see, if we go back here, we can show you how this worked. This was one of those quizzes where at the end, in the final results, we asked the user, did we get it right? And this paid off big time. As you can see here, this item has over 200,000 comments. And, let's just take a look. James Smith here, who's 13 years old, got the result 66 just by answering some questions about his personality. So as you can see here, whether or not you get it right is beside the point because people are still going to want to argue with you in the comments section. So the Can We Guess format is a really fun way to interact with your audience. Another cool format that we want to highlight is the one-question quiz. So the wonderful thing about this, now I know I said that 8 to 10 questions is the ideal amount for a personality quiz, but there's always exceptions to the rule, and this is definitely one of those exceptions. The one-question quiz allows you to tell your reader something about them with just one question. And the greatest benefit of this format, of using the format this way, is that it has a very high share rate, but there's less time invested in the creation process. And it adds a great deal of suspense. So this is also another great place to start if you haven't really gotten familiar with the format yet. So let's take a look at how this quiz works. Okay, so it's very straightforward. Choose an eye and see what it reveals about you. Already it adds that element of suspense. What does me choosing a particular eye have anything to do with my personality? Well, we're about to find out. So I like eye number 1. Which eye will I pick? Let's go with number 1. As you can see here, the eye that I picked tells me that I'm deep down and open. Here we have a positive result and a very nice description of my personality. And yes, I'm the type of person who will welcome almost anyone into my life and my heart. So as you can see, this is a cool way to tell your audience something about them in just one question. And it's got a very high share rate with less time invested in the creation process. So we encourage you to try this out as well. All right, moving along. So, number 9, testing the user's memory. Now, this is a really cool way to use the personality quiz format in sort of an unconventional and unexpected way. So, in this case, what the author did is, we'll show you this in just a second, but instead of asking the users questions about their personality, it added this element of surprise that instead they were asked to recall questions about particular pictures and tested the user's skills rather than asking about their personality. So let's take a look at this item and see what the author did here and how the author really nailed that element of surprise. So as you can see, as we go ahead and play with this item a little bit, instead of asking, the user was probably expecting to be asked, how often do you lose your keys, or do you remember your mom's birthday? Instead, they were asked to take a look at a series of pictures and remember them and sort of absorb the pictures. As we go through, we can see here, okay, I'm remembering, got it, who could forget, Saved by the Bell. And it's a very visually appealing quiz, as you can see here. So we're being asked to remember these pictures, and it seems pretty straightforward. We're just going to go through and look at some pictures, and then later we'll be asked to recall them. Now this is where the fun begins. Take a deep breath and see how much you remember. So this is where the audience was asked to recall the pictures, and the really cool thing about this was that the final result, once they got to the end, told them something about their memory that was positive. And, once they were finished, they got a chance to humble brag to their audience about how amazing their memory is. And, these quiz questions added a huge element of surprise to the quiz. And it was an unexpected use of the personality quiz format, which we're always encouraging. Number 10, presenting the answers in a new way is always a cool thing to play around with this format. For example, showing your answers in the form of a percentage. Now, if the memory quiz example we just showed you illustrates how to ask questions in an unconventional way, the next example we're going to show you will show you how to present your final results in an unconventional way as well. So what's cool about this quiz is that it sort of gives the audience something that they haven't already seen a million times. And the example that we have here is the "Which animal are you like when you're angry?" quiz. Most users were probably going to expect that they would be told one animal that they act like when they're angry. For example, tiger. But when they got to the final result, as we'll show you here, here's one example. So the user was asked a couple questions about their pattern, how they behave when they're angry. So we're just at the final questions here. Eye for an eye. As they went through the questions, they were probably expecting one animal, but instead they got two. 50% wolf, 50% lion. Now this is really cool because you can combine more than one answer, and instead of giving the audience something once again that they've seen a million times before, this added the element of surprise. They were expecting one animal, and instead we surprised them with two. So this paid off big time, and this quiz really kind of nailed that particular form of presenting answers. Number 11, and perhaps, the most important tip that we can give you is to have fun when you're making this content, when you're making personality quizzes or any kind of playful content for that matter. You always want to have fun. If you have any more questions about the quiz creation process or want to learn more about PlayBuzz, there's a couple of ways you can do that. We want to encourage you to check out our community forum, and this is a really cool place where community members and PlayBuzz writers and staff members can brainstorm new ideas, answer any questions you might have about creating items on playbuzz.com. So we encourage you to check that out. Also, you should take a look at our blog where we have many PlayBuzz staff writers as well as guest writers talking about playful content. And if you have any questions about reaching out for anything at all, you can just email us at publisherscommunity@playbuzz.com, and we will get in touch with you and try to create a dialogue and answer as many questions as we can. Now, once again, we will send you all of this information, so don't worry about writing any of it down. And we'll send you today's entire presentation, as well as some additional information of how to contact us in the future. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining in with us today. It was a pleasure to have you all with us. We want to encourage you to tune in to our future webinars, which we will send out more information about as well. We've got a lot of exciting topics coming up in our webinar schedule, so we encourage you guys to tune into that. Once again, thanks so much for joining us today, and we hope that you've enjoyed your time with us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.